rumble and growl on Oria TV.
Welcome to part 2 of the Gun Violence in the United States of America panel.
You got to make it difficult for people to get the guns. If they have access, then they're going to use the guns, or they're going to use the guns for attention or whatever they want to do with these guns.
I see
That's a
Oliver
big
nodding
issue.
his head. I think he agrees with you about the safe storage. I did, Oliver, forget to ask you about your culture with guns and if there's guns in your family and in your households.
Yes, I'm a hunter, and my Gail also hunts. She has a safe downstairs, which I don't go in. If I want my bow, I ask her because I know that there's guns in there, and I'm not gonna risk my electronics getting taken away if I go in there.
Or worse.
Good man. Good man.
Yes. And my dad has it locked up in his closet, which I feel is safe because it's in his bedroom. All the knives are in his bedroom. So like if anything happened, they're all locked up and I won't have any access to it.
Awesome. Good answer, young man. Dana also would like to chime in here. Go ahead, Dana.
Yes, I just wanted to jump into the conversation about mental health and make sure that my earlier comments were clear. When I am talking about domestic violence and the need to keep guns out of the hands of people who pose a danger to others, I am not necessarily talking about people with mental illness. And I think it is very important that we distinguish between people who commit violence and people who are mentally ill, because those are not the same groups. Mental illness is often brought up when a gun tragedy happens. People are very quick to blame mental illness. The fact is that people with mental illness are more likely to be victims of violence than they are to be perpetrators of violence. And we have to be very careful not to stigmatize people with mental illness when we talk about gun safety. We also need to be very clear about holding abusers accountable for their behavior and not making excuses for that behavior. Just because a man beats and beats and beats and then shoots his wife does not mean that he's mentally ill. We need, I think, to be really clear-eyed about that, both so that we can hold the perpetrators of violence accountable in appropriate ways, and so that we can better understand the mechanisms that will be most effective to prevent that violence, right? And we know right now that our prison system is not only overloaded with far too many people. We imprison more people than anyone else in the world does as a percentage of our population. But huge numbers of people in prison have mental illness and don't get treatment. And so mixing mental illness with perpetration of violence can lead to a lot of other cycles of harm that we don't want to expand. We don't want to make worse, right? So I think it's really important, especially when we're talking about what are the solutions that we want to pursue to try to solve our problem with gun violence in this country, that we can think about all of those components separately. So I just wanted to.
Thank you for clarifying. Joe, I'd like to come back to you for a minute as a police officer. And Dana was just talking about violent criminals and people who perpetrate violent acts with firearms and guns. And it's my experience that I have not seen very many police officers come out in support of more common sense gun control. Can you speak to me maybe as a police officer, maybe your own experience or some of your colleagues, what they might have felt about that?
Sure. Sure. And just one thing, and Dana is correct. We have to separate the whole mental illness piece. What I'm saying is, on an investigation, as a detective, as an investigator, FBI, whoever is investigating, troopers, there's always, we also look into that component. It's a component that has to be looked at. And usually it comes out in the news anyway, because the news people start doing their thing. So so she's right. We have to make sure we don't stigmatize, or it has to be divided. So Gail, give me the question one more time and I will answer it.
Yeah, sure. I love how the conversation just keeps going organically. That's great. But what I am really curious about is police officers in general, in my opinion and in my experience, have not come out strongly in an anti-gun violence stance. And I would think that if I was a police officer facing criminals who could possibly have more advanced weaponry than I do, that I would want to have more laws keeping myself safe. Can you maybe explain to me about the police officer's viewpoint?
Sure. I mean, I'm talking for myself. I can't talk for the men and women that
Sure.
are currently out there or retired. I mean, the reality is we have a history with laws to exceed, to go to, oh my God, there's been an event, we're gonna make a law, and it always goes to the total end, overdo it. They overdo it. And the other piece of that is, when we do gun laws, for whatever reason, I don't see the commissioner of police or the trooper commissioner saying, yeah, because we're not consulting. I mean, they make gun laws. They're like, okay, let's do some research. Let's do this. And this sounds great. Our New York law originally made the guns the police officers were carrying illegal because it had more than 10 rounds in it. That's ridiculous. We don't consult the people that actually do this work. And we can tell you in general what we see and what we investigate. I've investigated enough mass shootings, so I know about where we get guns, why they're out in the street, what they cost, how much they cost. It's just, I joke around a lot. Some people come to me where I work and say, hey, what about this? I said, honestly, if I got enough money, I'll go right to the corner there and I can buy you a gun. I need to know how to talk about it. I know how to, you produce the money. I guarantee you in a matter of an hour or half a day, there's going to be a gun in that corner.
Dana,
we have to, sorry. I mean, for policing, we'd like to be part of that conversation and we're not. That's all.
Okay. Dana, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think that point's incredibly important. On this issue and every other issue, the people who are engaged in the work need to be part of the conversation about how to solve our problems, right? That's sort of a no-brainer. And the fact that it doesn't happen more is really appalling. I do want to mention, when I was running for office, there was a particular gun safety issue that became a very hot topic because there was a federal law that they were proposing making a change to, and that's the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. And what that law would allow is that if you had a permit to carry a concealed weapon anywhere in the country, any other state had to honor your privilege to carry that concealed weapon. Now, here in New York, we have pretty strong gun safety laws. And that federal law would have brought more concealed weapons into our state, which all of the research shows would have made us all less safe. That was an instance where we saw very public response from police officers and sheriff's departments all over the state. They spoke up very loudly against the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. My opponent in that race was a sponsor of that bill and positioned himself as a law and order candidate. But actually, the people who were responsible for keeping us all safe in our communities said, this is going to make everybody unsafe and it's going to make our jobs harder to do. Please don't pass this law. And I was really grateful that the law enforcement community spoke up about that because, again, it was sort of a no-brainer, right? If you really look at the evidence, you know that that's a bad idea. But it takes hearing from experts to persuade people, right? So there's an example of where I think they played a really important role in the public conversation that I was very happy to see, very grateful for.
Thank you. Oliver would like to chime in for a minute. Oliver, what do you have to say?
I was just gonna say something about the age limit for guns and how like they should be like a new law about the age limit that you can buy a gun instead of having it like 16 or 18. Because that age their brains are like fully developed like the adults and they don't know what to do with it. They're nervous that if like a cop pulls them over, they're gonna get in trouble for it without. And I feel like it should be like a higher age, like 20 to 25-year-olds.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you, Oliver. John, I see you have something that you'd like to say about urban violence.
Yes, I do. In many cities in the U.S. struggling with high levels of gun violence, often associated with cities in the U.S. With poverty, gang activities, and drug-related crime. Efforts to address these root causes is difficult at times. What's everybody's opinion on that?
Who wants to take that first?
I'll jump in. I think it's a great question, and I really appreciate you talking about root causes because, again, this is a place where policy and government action can play a really impactful role, right? All of the research shows us that the best way to reduce crime and to reduce violence is by attacking those root causes, which are things like poverty and housing instability and homelessness and lack of healthcare and mental health care. And so if we are really serious about solving the problem of violence in our communities, which we all should be, because we should all be able to live in a place, a neighborhood, a community, a home that's safe and where we can thrive, that means not throwing more people in jail and removing them from the community. That means making sure that communities have what they need to thrive, that there are good schools and lots of jobs and people have access to healthy food and clean air and all the stuff that we need. The communities that have those resources have much lower rates of crime, and the communities that don't have those resources, that are starved of those resources, have much higher rates of crime. Yep. So all the evidence shows us that's the best way to reduce crime. So if we're interested in prevention, not just response, I think that stuff is so critically important.
Joe, do you have a response?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, the poor neighborhoods are usually where you see a great deal of gun violence and domestic violence, and it just goes on and on. The reality is, are we willing to throw all our resources, and I mean money, because to do that, we need money. Communities need money to do that, to get those resources in our community. And we have to be fair about it. That's the, it's giving money and then it doesn't go where it's supposed to go, then why are you giving money? So we definitely have to build on the resources, and we have to figure out two levels of policing: community policing and aggressive policing. Because crime, even though we fix these problems, there's still going to be crime and there's still going to be guns on the street. So we have to figure out how to work together, the social part and the response part, the law enforcement part. And with those two together, I think we can really do some changes, but that takes a lot of money, unfortunately.
Oliver, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, one thing I would like to add was, I don't know if anybody remembers, but there was a black guy that walked into a building, a house being built, and people across the street thought that he stole something from there and shot him. They got into their car and shot him right on the street. And it's been occurring, like black people getting shot and killed, and it just doesn't seem okay that only like I don't know why they would like focus on that when it's I don't even know why people would have guns just to like think about that. Like if you don't see anything in their hands, like first off, why do you even shoot somebody when they don't have anything in their hands?
Must be very confusing as a youngster to see these things on the news and wonder why these things happen and not I mean, it's confusing as adults too. Let me not mess around about that. It's I look at the news and I'm just like, I don't understand why this is happening and why when it's happening we're not doing something different about it.
Tune in Friday, December 8th for the third and final installment of the Gun Violence in America panel.